Here we are back with Robin Joy, Happy Food Chef. Hey, Robin. Good
Hey,
to see you.
Christy.
Here we
Good to
are.
see you too.
Yes. And end of the day, you are in Florida and it's dark where you are.
It
And
is. I don't even. it's almost 9.
okay, I of course have the sun. Yeah, this morning we had a conversation with Colleen Heber about habits and gardening, and the sun was over here, like blinding me, and now it's like coming this way. But this is great. So I'm excited to be here. We were actually live on Instagram this morning talking about our challenge, and I wanted to do. Rob and I have been planning this one because this is all about Tomato Month, and I wanted to get her together so we could talk, show people what we do in the planted membership, and we're talking about what we're growing and what do we do with this food and the nutritional benefits and what are just quick ways to prepare this food and how you can repurpose what you're building, so many things that you're cooking. So Robin always has so many great, I hate to say them hacks, but I use them as hacks. I love them.
They are hacks.
They are hacks, wonderful recipes, but a lot of hacks, which I love. But everybody, we are doing Planted Places is doing a 6 and 30 challenge the month of October. And what that means is here's something so important. In fact, I heard it again today from someone. People are like, oh my God, I love the concept of growing food, but there's no way I can do that. Like I kill things. That's just not what I do. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's think about that. Like really, you could be like Colleen and I type us, you could be an aspiring gardener. So it's like, let's try it out. And that's exactly what this challenge is. We're going to $35. We give people a challenge kit and they grow 6 organic leafy greens, lettuce, and herbs in 30 days. And we walk them through the month. So it's like a garden kit plus training, 4 to 5 full courses of training, garden training. And we are going to, of course, spice it up with what we do in the Planted membership, which is to include the cooking portion with Robin. And we include also experts in areas like soil health. So people understand, why do we grow in living soil, right? But the importance of that, how that helps with so many parts of not only your health, but the plant's health, right? And look at the sun. I'm like, I'm shining now. Oh God, that's too funny. But so everybody definitely check. If you go to plantedplaces.com, you will see a place to sign up. If you're on Instagram, it's in our bio. We'll put a link in this in our Facebook Live as well. But let's move on over to Robin and talk about tomatoes. We're talking about tomatoes because we have been growing tomatoes starting in April for some people, May for others, and we've been growing them all summer. And I've got a cute little micro tomato behind me, which I have in my planted wall, and it's been pumping out the cherry tomatoes, but I also have large ones. I also have big planter containers with large tomatoes. And so Robin, talk to us about, let's talk about tomatoes, the health of tomatoes and all these delicious recipes that you have been releasing to our members all month long. And I have been making them and they're delicious. So
Right. Well, I love tomatoes. And of course, there's a distinction to be made because the tomatoes that you're growing there is absolutely no, hands down. One of the main reasons tomatoes are so great is because they contain lycopene in your tomatoes is really important. It's one of the things that fights cancer, especially prostate cancer. And how do you get that? Believe it or not, the best way to get the most out of that lycopene content is by cooking your tomatoes. So again, look at your Italian cuisine, your beautiful sauces. So when you have this many tomatoes, what everybody should be doing is making incredible sauce, which you can then freeze if you want, but you can make it and have it and use it for everything.
And I will say, Robin, I'm so glad you brought up the cooking of the tomatoes. And this is what's been so important about this month, because I traditionally grow tomatoes and I store them in my salad. But now you have introduced so many different ways to cook the tomatoes, which is, as you're saying right now, a healthier way to absorb lycopene. And I will say with a marinara, if you can share a very, like, what's a simple, like, here it is, let's say, it's a work night, and I've got a bunch of tomatoes that are coming off the vine, and I got to do it quick. What do I do?
Okay, you chop up some garlic.
Okay.
Okay, you chop your tomatoes, and then you're going to also chop up an onion.
Okay.
a beautiful onion. And if your vidalias are in, listen, onions are phenomenal for our health. So, you take those. Now, I'm not big on sauteing in oil. There's a lot of things that,
Mm-hmm.
in the processing of oils. So if you notice in a lot of my recipes, like my pesto is an example of that, which is what we're making along with these recipes this month, all these
Yes.
different, what I call types of pestos. There's not a drop of added oil in any of them because we're putting nuts in them.
The
That's
oil.
enough. And maybe some of them, for those that are not vegan, we're putting some cheese in there. So now you get those two fats. That's all you need. To add more insult to injury with added oil, processed oil, which I know most people are just using junk oil. It's not healthy.
So we're
And
replacing nuts and cheese for the cases where you do eat cheese instead of oil.
correct.
Okay, good. Good
Right.
tip. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So
So
essentially,
yeah.
right. So now we're taking this and we're stuffing the tomatoes. We're stuffing, and I show in a video like and so they're multifunctional. So these pesto spreads can be used to stuff your tomatoes, or I make a great little, and I think we posted that, is I take, on a tomato, let's say it's a Roma, and I just slice it, or even a gorgeous heirloom tomato, right? You
Yep.
take a slice, you take one of the nut meats, or pestos, I call them nut meats, pestos, dips, whatever, they're spreads. You take that, put that on the tomato slice, and then put on top of it a little tiny bit of olive or whatever you want to garnish with, and you just bite into that. It's amazing. Or put it on a beautiful piece of sourdough bread. You've got
Okay, so the
a sandwich.
The tomato slice becomes the cracker. That is
It can,
very interesting what you just said.
correct.
So a large enough tomato, it becomes the cracker.
Yeah. And I even as an hors d'oeuvre take your little baby tomatoes. I cut off the little tiny top, and I cut off just a drop on the bottom with super sharp knife, scoop out the inside, and I stuff it in there. So
And
you pop them in your mouth.
So everybody, oh my God, I love that. That would be kind of something fun.
With the pesto that on the video I sent last night.
Yeah.
You use that.
The small tomatoes, that would be something fun for just like a party appetizer, right? Like it is.
That's what I made them for.
So wonderful. Yeah. Because it's small. You just pop it in your mouth. Oh, it's
exactly. And you can put the pesto, you could put it if you want to make it really nice. You chill it, and then you put it in a pastry glove, and you infuse it into the small cherry tomato.
Wonderful. I love that. I love that. And so now I'm going to go back because we went off on a different tangent. We were going back to you get your tomatoes, your onions, and your garlic.
Yes,
you're not getting off the phone. We're not getting off the Zoom until you tell me about how to make a quick marinara.
You have to.
Okay, so what do? I chop that up and
chop it up. Throw it in a pot with just a little bit of water.
Okay, a little bit of water. Okay.
And I get from the health food store in a jar. It's glass. I think I may have posted one of the videos. It's actually a tomato paste.
Okay, a little bit of a tomato paste. Okay.
A beautiful tomato paste.
Okay.
Okay, not one with tons of junk in it. A beautiful, no sugar in it, no nothing. And I'll post a picture of the brand that I like.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. You put a little bit of that, just heat it up, boil it up. You not boil it, but cook it. Just cook it down. And if it starts to cook down too much, you add a little bit more water. You keep cooking it until the onions, it's all cooked. And
so what
that's
are you talking, like 20 minutes? We're talking like 20
Not
minutes?
even. It can be done in 10 minutes.
Really? Oh my goodness. Now, okay. So now if I want to spice it up a little bit, add a little jalapeno. Yeah, let's talk about how we spice that thing up, because that's a wonderful base. Oh God.
Okay. So of course you're going to have, then a lot of times I will use, sometimes I'll actually, even though I use fresh garlic, I'll use the garlic organic only, garlic powder and a onion powder. I love this. And then you throw in your dried, with that mixture and the tomato paste, you put in your dried spices. So you can use an Italian blend, or you can use your basil, your oregano, all of that with a bay leaf. Just throw that in there. And then at the end, you throw in your fresh basil to garnish it on top, mix it in. and you're done.
Basil, where's my basil? Here's my basil right
The
there.
basil,
So,
fresh oregano, your fresh oregano
so that's
chopped
what I was
up.
going to ask you now, because of course,
Yes.
when we're growing, we don't necessarily have the dried, the dried herbs. So if we're on a, because, it's
I
a,
love to combine, right. So in my
put fresh in
cabinet,
there. Yep.
you definitely, but I put the fresh more toward the end. I put
Towards
in
the-
the dried when I'm cooking it.
Okay.
And then at the end, I throw at the very last minute, I throw in the fresh.
Okay. And I think of like thyme, oregano, basil. Are these all okay to do together?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Oregano, especially oregano and basil. But again, this is what I love about, because that tomato sauce you just made with your basil and
Mhm.
your oregano. Okay. You just made your Italian. Now you want to make more of French, upper
Yep.
Mediterranean. You're going to use your thyme. You're
Ah,
going to,
okay.
right. You can even throw in
Okay.
your little lemon, whatever you can do. That's why I break it up into the different cuisine. Now, that same tomato sauce
Mhm.
is a hot sauce, but it's made with all your Mexican spices. So you got your cumin, your chili powder, and then you have your cilantro.
Yes.
Right. So
And
I break it up
oh,
into the
I love
different
that.
cuisines.
And this is
Right.
exactly what we did. So everybody, because people that are watching and watching this, the replay, they're not everybody's members, right? And so this is what we did during the month of September, and we're still doing it. To Robin's point, is we created a kind of well, we're calling it a nut meat, right? I think that's what you're calling them. But basically, they
Yeah.
were different. We had a Mediterranean blend, we had a
And,
South border blend, right?
and now we have, and this week is Italian, and
Italian.
next week is, I believe it is with mint. I believe, well, I have it written down. I was going to mention it
Okay,
today.
it's late at your end.
Right. It's
I'm
a
keeping you up.
Mid-East.
Yeah,
It's Mid-Eastern.
Mid-Eastern. Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay,
And so
okay,
then I
yeah,
pair it with the herbs. I pair it with the right nuts. So next week it's going to be pistachio nuts
yes. Oh, I love
with your mint. I mean, it's going to be
Oh,
divine.
and what's
So
so important about this, by the way, I just had to just say this real quick, because we've been growing herbs all summer, and I have a
right,
lot of herbs, and I need reasons to use the herbs. And so this is what I love about what
absolutely.
you do. Yes.
Right.
So
So
we
I
talked
break
about
it
it
in.
in
So
spreads
we're going to do
and
the same thing. Right. So again, think of how we did it with the nut meats and all of those to stuff things and
right.
stuff all your vegetables. Or as they're multifunctional, those can be dips and spreads for open face or closed face sandwiches. So
Yes.
they're multifunctional.
Yes.
And again, your sauces, your marinara, if you cook that down, it can be really thick. And
Mm-hmm.
you could add into it some red bell peppers, cook out your vegetables, and then you become almost like, um, there's, so in the south of the border, I call them your different kind of salsas, but
Yeah.
it's cooked tomato down into
Yeah.
with those herbs that go with it. Same thing with the Mediterranean, same thing with the Italian, so it's
And
the
you can
same thing.
pour
Think
that.
about cuisine,
Yeah. Yeah.
different
And it's,
cuisines.
I love that. And it's interesting because like you said the word salsa, but it's not necessarily a salsa, but it's like you're pouring that maybe over some cooked vegetables, right? Or
Or
yeah,
over a pasta, there's no reason you
or
can't
pasta. Yeah.
have.
Right, right. My
Absolutely.
favorite thing now is the cauliflower linguine that is now, I have been finding that it's at the Whole Foods, and it's a cauliflower organic linguine. It is amazing. It's so good, and you would never know that yeah, so that's my new go-to. But okay, this is wonderful. And I'm gonna go off now and make the marinara. I'm serious. I just figured out my dinner thank you for that. But I want to just do a teaser for next month for members that are watching this, and for other people. So we've been growing jalapeno peppers all summer long, and those things take a little longer to kind of to fruit and to be to ripen than the tomatoes of course do. But I've got one behind me. Look at this thing. This guy is ready to come off, and I got some others. And once, just so everybody knows, when you're growing heat fruit plant, fruiting plants in the summer, like tomatoes and peppers, primarily, they love the heat, and they like, so the warmer nights and the warm days. And so as we get into fall, this is a perfect teaching point. As we get into fall, what will happen is that will slow down that fruiting part because they don't have as much of the heat, right? And so what's happening is you think, oh, I'm going to keep it in the planter because it's still ripening, because maybe it's green. But as you get, sometimes what happens is you get into like November and it's like, it's still green. And that's because, you know what, at that point it's frozen. It's frozen. It's not going to ripen anymore. And so really October, September, October, kind of the last times that we're really taking these out. Now I'm talking mostly obviously for, kind of Northern California. If you're in Arizona and it's, or even Florida for that matter, but your days are shorter. So that also is impacting what's happening. So there's my little gardening tip for the day. So people know, but we're going to be talking about peppers. Correct?
Yes, we're going to be talking about peppers and also, pickling, because you end up with all these things. So you can take, in fact, I had an experience in Martinique many, 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 many years ago, a million years ago. I was living on a boat and I was at the open market and they had, you're just growing a jalapeno. Imagine going into this farmer's market and there are gazillions of types of different little peppers.
Yes.
And there was this little pepper that was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. The funniest little shape. And it was maybe about that big, right? And I popped one in my mouth.
Oh no, no.
The next thing I know, I was surrounded by these women, these Martinique women that were like, oh no.
What have you done? What have you done?
Well, I didn't know how hot they were. They make jalapenos look mild.
Oh, wow. Oh, I can't.
And and so you know what the antidote is? Sugar water. They made up sugar water for me and made me drink it. And they're like, don't touch your eyes, don't do anything. And I was crying my eyes up, but
sugar
water.
So
sugar water was the antidote to cut the hotness. If you have a pepper and it's too hot for you, take some sugar, put it in water, and then just drink it.
Gosh. So there you go. Another hack.
Yep.
Thank you, Robin. That's worth so much. Yes. Yeah.
What they were doing, what they showed were these jars that they were making, right? That had cut up peppers, all these hot peppers with carrots and onion, all right, and all cut up, and the peppers was cut very fine, and they were all in this pickle. They were being pickled so that they could stay, so that they could. Yes, because if you grow a lot of them, what am I going to do with them?
You got to preserve them. Yep.
You got to preserve them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everybody knows about hanging the upside down in your peppers
so we'll have
dry.
to talk about all that because for sure, I want to learn about that. So very good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Robin.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure. And like I said, I'm off to make the marinara. And
good. Well, let me know how it is.
I still have the spread. So I have the Mediterranean spread left over.
Well,
so I'm going to use I'll do the Mediterranean marinara to match it, right?
Absolutely. You can. Absolutely. And then you can take that spread and you can actually toss that in with the marinara sauce with your pasta. Oh, yes, of course. Yes, a lot of times. Yeah. So let me, one more little hack.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. A great, and because there's going to be a lot of basil, there's going to be a lot of arugula. So the one that I just sent last night was an arugula pesto.
Yes.
Okay. All right. What I love to do. So a lot of times if you're making this from scratch, and I always use the word thin or full bodied. Okay. If you find that your marinara sauce is too thin, and you need something, because don't forget, I'm not adding oil.
Okay. Right. Exactly.
Right. There's no oil in it.
And cheese.
So so you take the pesto or the nut meat, whatever, and mix it into the pasta with the marinara sauce, and it will completely give it that body.
While you're cooking
when you toss it, you can either. Or you can throw the pesto right in with the sauce right after it's done. You have to cook it in there. Right when the sauce is done, you're ready to serve it. Throw in a big, scoop of it into the sauce, then toss it with your pasta or whatever you're going to have, and you will be amazed.
Wonderful. Okay.
It gives it that full body.
Yes, I bet it does because it's very rich in a very good way. It's delicious,
It's
delicious.
amazing.
And in fact, I'm gonna, once we post this live, I'm also gonna post. I'm gonna pick one of I think I'll pick the Mediterranean one because that's the most recent. That's what we just kind of talked about. But I'll post that one too so people can see that. Love that.
Okay. Yeah. And you're going to love the one that I just sent, because what I did was I actually roasted a whole, with nothing on them, just roasted a whole bunch of veggies, including potatoes. And I have it set out. There's a beautiful still photograph with the pesto in the center, the arugula pesto, and you use it as a dip.
Yep, it, of course. Oh my God, I love that.
Plus, we stuff the tomatoes and peppers. And so it's so endless. These are all multifunctional.
I mean, these are endless number of meals that you can be making really off of one tomato, right? Not one tomato, literally, but yes, like taking tomatoes and expanding what you can do with it. I love it.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, very good. You have a good night. Thank
You
you very
too.
much. And
My
I will talk
pleasure.
to you soon. Okay.
Okay.
Bye
Thanks.
bye. Bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye.